This is Support is Sexy, episode 446, with Nicole Roberts Jones, CEO of Fierce Factor Lab. Welcome to Support is Sexy. I'm your host, Elayne Fluker, entrepreneur, author, and founder of Chic Rebellion Media. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, I bring you inspiring women entrepreneurs who share their wins and lessons to help you take your business to the next level. Here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Support is Sexy. I'm excited to have you here. You know, it just would not be the same without you. And I am sitting here looking at 2 pages of notes on a legal pad from an interview I did with this woman you're going to hear from today, Nicole Roberts Jones. And Nicole is CEO of the Fierce Factor Lab. More than that, she is a dynamic speaker, a powerful storyteller. I left the conversation feeling inspired. And as I said, I have pages and pages of notes. And I first fell in love with Nicole when I actually met her through a consultation for Girl On Podcast. And Girl On Podcast is my podcast booking service for women entrepreneurs, women like you who have a story to tell, a message to share. If you're in that space, you must consider podcast guesting. Go to girlonpodcastgift.com to get a free gift from me on how to be an unforgettable podcast guest. And I will tell you, Nicole is a shining example. Girlonpodcastgift.com, how to be an unforgettable podcast guest for all the right reasons. Now, on this episode today, get ready. If you're driving, listen, take notes later. But I'm telling you, you will want to take notes on the things Nicole says in this episode. What I love is that it's full of inspiration, of course. We try to give you that. But what I always tell my guests before I record is I really see the podcast as strategy wrapped in storytelling. And Nicole is so good at wrapping her strategy in storytelling. So you're going to get stories here, but also strategy on how to build a business that has multiple streams of income, her formula, and the questions you need to ask yourself to build your business. Also, something very important, Nicole shares how she went from having a $13,000 a year business to a $200,000 a year business in just a year by bringing in a coach and joining a mastermind, and how important it is for you to connect with people who can support you. You know, we're all about it, right? Support is sexy. So she talks about that and how powerful it was for her. Also, being brave enough to walk away from the glamorous job, opportunity, whatever it is that you're doing, and really tap into what she calls the rumble in your belly. So there's tons of great information in here. I'm not going to keep you from it any longer. So without further ado, Nicole Roberts Jones. So Nicole, thank you so much for being here for an episode of Support is Sexy. I'm super excited to chat with you.
Yay, I am too.
Excellent. So our first question, when did you first fall in love with entrepreneurship?
So I love that this is your first question, because I'm not sure that I ever set out to be an entrepreneur, let alone fall in love with it. I always say I kind of fell on this on an accident. So, you know, just to give you context to my journey and how I got to this, I really started this back in 1993 when I had a successful career, what it looked like on the outside, right? And I was working in the entertainment industry. And at the time, I was working for Viacom's largest cable network. We had outreach to 89 million homes on a weekly basis. And I'm telling you this so you guys can get a visual of where I was to show you how I got here. From there, I worked for the #1 TV show on Fox. And then from there, I worked for a production company, and what we produced, we generated over $12.6 billion a year. So I wasn't working for small, little bitty TV shows. I was doing big things, right? Going to all the hot Hollywood parties, bumping elbows with the stars, and I might have dated 1 or 2, right?
Uh-oh.
So I was living what many would call a dream life. But I woke up one morning to the fact that it had become my nightmare.
Mm.
And I only say that because I woke up and realized that I had carved a path that everyone else told me I should do, and everybody else told Nicole who she should be, and Nicole talking about me. My husband laughs when I talk about myself in third person, but really for my own self in that moment, I was having a third person moment because I stood outside of myself and said to myself, what do you want?
Mm-hmm.
And what are you doing? Right. And don't get me wrong. Hollywood is great. I still miss the parties. So I'm not saying anything was bad with Hollywood, but what I was a woman that everyone else defined. And so
Mm-hmm.
for me in that moment, as I called on my girlfriends, telling them that I felt like I was in a place that wasn't a good fit, they kept saying, have you lost your mind? Do you forget the party we went to last week? Or do you forget what you have been doing and where you've been going and who you've been meeting? And so in the midst of me feeling dazed and confused, Elayne, I went and volunteered at a program at my church. And here's my epiphany moment. Now, had you told me then that I'd be starting to be an entrepreneur, I would have said heck to the no.
Mm-hmm.
I do not want to be an entrepreneur, right? But when I walked into that church that night and literally started working with young women, as their eyes lit up, my heart lit up. And I realized this is what I was meant to do. And really all I was doing was holding the space for them to see who they authentically were in a way that no one had ever done for me. And so I loved it. And I started realizing, oh my God, I want to do this, whatever this is. There was no such thing as a coach then. This thing wasn't glamorous and nobody was knocking down the walls to do this work. But for some reason, for the first time in my life, my soul was alive. So I found the thing I was born to do, but I would never say in that moment that, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. But that is the journey I began, was to grow this thing, because I didn't know what it was, into a business.
And when you were in Hollywood, were you a producer at that time?
So I worked in casting and talent management.
Okay, so like you said, people think it's very glamorous, and it is, as you admit,
Oh, it's fun.
parties,
Don't get me
it's
wrong.
fun. Exactly, good, which is such a great point to admit. But then the fact that I love that you said you had this epiphany, but you didn't know exactly how. I always tell people, let go of the how it was going to work, or even what it was. So did you have any fears in that moment when you thought about, okay, this is what I want to do, but how am I going to make this transition from, well, not how, I just said you didn't, it doesn't sound like you thought about that. But did you have any fear about it? Wanting to do that other thing.
I started as a volunteer. So I didn't start as just jumping out and starting a business, right? So I started as a volunteer working with African-American teenage girls that look like me. And as I started working with my young women, and the goal of my initial program that then became a nonprofit, that program was to hold the space that they could, their dreams and desires and gifts could be pondered and realized. I didn't realize then that I was doing what I do now. But as they graduated from college, which is my goal, is to help them really carve out a way to monetize their purpose, right? Couldn't articulate that then, but I can tell you now. They started calling me with one-on-one issues like, I have the job I always wanted, but I don't feel like it fits me. Sound familiar, right? Or I'm not making the money I thought I should be making, or anything in between. And so I thought, just talking to them. And one of them said, Nicole, you're my coach. I was like, oh, is that what this is that I'm doing? Just give me an article. And so that in that moment was when I said, I really, really want to do this. And so even in that moment, I think because I was in my 20s then, I'm going to keep it all the way real. When you're young, you have no inhibition. You just risk it all to gain it all. And as I've gotten older and had more life experience, that's shifted, right? And for many of us, we look for comfort. And it was hard initially because my friends kept saying to me, Nicole, have you lost your mind? What do you mean now you're quitting Hollywood? What do you mean you're leaving to do what? And all my friends thought I literally was crazy. And so I had to stop talking to them and start listening to the rumble in my belly. Did I know what I was doing? No. But the passion in me was so much bigger than anything I'd ever felt. I just kept following that.
Now, did you grow up in LA, California,
Yes.
I You did. Okay. So you were
I'm from South Central LA. So those of you that have seen Boys in the Hood, if you've seen that, Elayne, that is where I'm from. And like 5 blocks from where that was filmed. And so, even in my neighborhood, if I keep it all the way real, since, we friends now, so I'm transparent. So if I were to become the woman that my neighborhood told me I should be, what many people said to me is, Nicole, you're cute, so you should find a man, a baller, to take care of you, which in my neighborhood was either a basketball, football, some kind of sports person, or was a drug dealer, right? And so I started thinking to myself, and because everybody else kept defining me from what I looked like on the outside. And in that moment when I had that epiphany for myself, I realized I had been seeking an outside answer to an inside inkling.
Oh, Nicole.
And so because everybody else had defined me from outside, and I'm one car accident away from this outside being gone, let me be all the way real, right? And so I stopped looking for that outside answer. So my neighborhood, if it had its choice, I would totally be a kept woman, right? And not kept in a good way, because if I was with a drug dealer, I'd be kept and looking over my shoulder every 5 minutes. So I really began, and for me, I'll be honest with you, nobody in my family, nobody in my community has done what I've been able to do. Not that they're not capable, because we all have it in us, but we've got to move beyond what we could see. We've got to move beyond what's familiar and what is comfortable. And that's really what I've been able to do in the 25 plus years that I've been in this journey.
So when you talk about your friends, once you made that decision, and even if you didn't know exactly at that time what it was going to be, I love that you said you had to sort of stop talking to them and listen to the rumble in your belly. But for a lot of us, sometimes it's friends or family or people who, one of the conversations I had with the woman before said it can be the people who love you who are your anchors.
Yep.
You need to surround yourself with engines.
Yep.
So for you, what was it? In what way were you able to sort of disconnect from your friends who care about you, which is why they're asking that question, and make a choice to focus on the rumble in your belly?
Well, what I realized for myself in that moment was that this is my baby. So those of you that have had a baby, the first trimester, you usually don't show. So I know a lot of my friends that were thinking I was crazy. I wasn't showing, right? I was pregnant with this purpose and they couldn't see it. But it's not their responsibility to push, it's mine. So I realized I had to stop talking to them about it. And I started having to try to find people that were in the same journey. And doing that, I began to surround myself with the fertilizer to grow it. So what that looks like is I found a coach. I found a coach that was 10 steps ahead of me. I found a community, a mastermind community that I joined. And yes, I had to invest. And many people aren't willing to invest. They think they're going to take what they already know and do something different. But you've got to understand, you might have the expertise, but if you're going to take it to a new level, you've got to do something you've never done before. So you don't know what the heck that looks like. So I had to find someone that could show me what the heck to do with all this stuff that I knew was rumbling in me, but I didn't know how to put it together. And that mastermind community that I joined in 2000, and it took me a long time to learn this, by the way. So I started this in 1993. I didn't join a mastermind until 2011.
Right. And one of the things you're very candid about is that for 17 years in your business, you were making, was it $13,000 a year?
Yes. So let me tell you. So when I started in 1993, just to give you guys context to this journey, right? And Elayne, you've heard my story, so you know it, but I want to make sure
your story.
You guys get it. So literally when I started my business, I didn't set out to do this, but things just kept happening for me. So some 17 years in, I had reached a pinnacle of success in my own business. So 17 years in, I had 10 chapters in 10 states of that youth program that I just told you about that I started in my church. I created it into a nonprofit. I started it in 10 other churches across the United States. And then because I started having my girls coming to me as grown women, I had women that I was coaching. Women that was coaching to then really help them understand how to bankroll their brilliance. Again, I'm saying that now articulate, but I couldn't say it then. I couldn't have described it like that then, right? So because I couldn't take any more clients, I had 100% maxed out coaching client roster. I thought, let me write a book. So in 2010, my first book came out. Now I'm telling you guys all this because I want you to see that some 17 years in, I had done everything I set out to do. And now I'm getting invitations to speak all over the country. So all the things that had rumbled in my belly that night in 1993 in my church as a volunteer, all of it was becoming real. And I looked really, really successful on paper. And I was traveling all over the world doing all the things that I knew I was born to do, but I was only making $13,000 a year. So yes, I still had a daytime job to pay for my nighttime calling, is how I call it, right? And I remember it was November 7th of 2010. It was the first Sunday, and I had just gotten home from another speaking weekend, right? And I was sitting on the couch. My daytime job, I was a professor at a university here in Boston, which is where I live. And I was like, mind you, my class was at 8 a.m. the next day. So here it is, Sunday night. I'm tired. I just got home. I hadn't even thought about what I'm teaching the next morning. And I'm tired. I'm thinking, I can't do this anymore. And I start feeling the tears of frustration and exhaustion running down my face. And I said, Lord, I can't do this anymore. I can't. I'm tired. I can't do this. But at the same time, as I was saying that out loud, I felt in conflict because I knew this is what I was born to do. So my next prayer, and I talked to God just the same way I talked to everybody else. I said, God, if this is really you, you better show me something, right? And so that, I can't remember if it was the next week or next 2 weeks because it happened so fast. I heard about this conference. And the conference was all the way in California. So I paid for the ticket. Now, mind you, I told you I made $13,000 in my business. Ticket cost $500 to go, $500 airline. I had to pay for my hotel because I went by myself. And my husband couldn't believe because I'm usually not, I'm kind of shy, even though people don't believe that. So for me to go to an event by myself, he was like, "You going where?" Mm-hmm. So when I got there, that's where I met my coach. Hired my coach. My coach cost me $30,000. I'm telling you that because I made $13,000. Right. So I couldn't afford it, but I couldn't afford not to do it. And
that's so important, such an important point. Sorry to interrupt you, but just, a lot of us, I've been there thinking about how am I going to afford to do this? How am I going to, quote unquote, make this happen? Which I always say we don't make it happen, right? We figure it out and things come about and you pray for it and work for it and do the other things and it aligns really. But the fact that the fact that you said you couldn't afford not to, that was my coach. I just cannot afford not to. You get to that point and you know that this is the thing. You believe at least, like you said, that rumble in your belly that this is the thing that you need. So for everyone listening, whatever that looks like, a coach, etc., find a way to invest in that for yourself.
I heard one of my girlfriends said this to me. God doesn't give you a calling, an inkling that matches your bank account. He's not checking your budget. He's checking your faith.
That's right. Amen. I know that's right.
And in that moment for me, I knew that if I wanted a next level, because for 17 years I had been running in place. Everything looked great on paper, but I was broke and broken. But I knew this is what I was meant to do, right? So I said, okay, look, I've got to risk it all to gain it all. So I put a deposit and I didn't know how I was going to make the second payment. I'm going to keep it all the way real. I was barely making that first payment, but I said, I'm going to figure it out. And literally, Elayne, in that first coaching session, my coach showed me. She said, "Nicole, hold on. So wait a minute. So you taught at USC for 4 years, and now you teach at Boston University, and what you teach is program development." And I said, yeah. I prided myself smiling like, yeah,
that's me.
Then, right. And then she said, and you used to have a consulting practice that I had to shut down because I was traveling so much. But what I used to do, and here, this is her talking to me, is what you told me you used to do is you went into businesses, you worked with nonprofits and heads of states and small businesses, and you went in and helped people develop programs. And of course, again, I'm smiling, proud of myself. Yeah. And then the next thing she said changed not just my business, it changed my life. She said, "Nicole, baby, you don't have any programs." Duh, right? So I had been busy serving everybody else. And here's the thing. What most billionaires don't tell you is they have multiple streams of income.
That's right. I say it all the time.
And up until that point, Elayne, I had one stream of income, which was my coaching. My nonprofit is not for profit. So that's not income. The only way I was getting paid, which is why I made $13,000 a year, was my coaching, period. And because I traveled so much, to keep it all the way real, I could only take 5 clients at a time. One-on-one. So $13,000 a year just wasn't cutting it. So literally when she said that to me, because, my gift is drawing out the best in you. I did that at entertainment, at talent management and casting. I do that now as a coach, right? And so I hadn't been drawing out the best in my own doggone self, right? So that night I went back to my hotel room because I was in California working with my coach, and I had a speaking gig in 2 days. So I developed my first program. Do you know, at that speaking gig, I made $10,000 from that program in 1 day?
In 1 day. And now so much good stuff. But for your program, well, first let's go back just a little bit with your coach. What was it that drew you to your coach? For anyone out there who wants to hire a coach, but doesn't know what kind of things to look for them. Of course, it's different for everyone, but what was it for you?
Well, you want to find someone that's 10 steps ahead of you. But here's where I hear most people fail when they look for a coach is you think, I need marketing. So you go hire a marketing coach. And then, you think, I need sales. So you go hire a sales coach. But if you don't have a blueprint for your business, meaning that you don't have a formula that your business stands on, because from that formula is how you build your marketing, how you build your sales, how you build your programs and products. And so for me, in that moment, I didn't know what I needed, to be honest with you. But what my coach did show me was me. And so at this moment, if I were to do something different, I would have realized I needed a formula. But thank God that's my gift. And what I do with my clients is I make sure you have a formula before we create anything in your business. Because that, just imagine if you built a house and you built it without a blueprint. And somebody said, Elayne, these are the best walls. These are the next best walls in home building. And you go buy the walls, and then you buy a roof, but the roof doesn't match the walls. So then when it rains, your whole house caves in. And you're like, what happened? Well, that's because you didn't start with the blueprint. And that's what so many people do. They go out and buy all these things without having the strategy they need in place to build from. So for me, I realized that coach, all she did was hold a mirror to me. And for me in that moment, I realized I hadn't positioned my own gift to profit. And so literally after I created that first program, I started creating program after program after program. I went from 13,000 to over 200,000 within a year. So for all of you that are listening, wherever it is in your business, you've got to first hire someone that can do some kind of assessment that can tell you where your business is. And usually an assessment is free. And my team usually does them for free if you already have a business, right? But then the second thing is you've got to find, if you don't have a blueprint or a formula that you build everything from, anything you do will fail. I call it being the Milli Vanilli of entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, you know who Milli Vanilli is.
I do, but some people, I'll make sure I link to it for the young ones.
Right. But what happens is when you build, like if someone, and this happens all the time, where I see people help people build a program, and you build one program, and then it's not even your voice because somebody else built it for you. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is it's like you're lip syncing on somebody else's track, and you might do well one time with that program, but you want predictable revenue over and over, not one time, not one hit. And that's what Milli Vanilli was, a one-hit wonder, right? Mm-hmm. That's right. And so that's what happened to so many entrepreneurs. They build one program, they'll hear this and they'll go, oh, I'm gonna go build a program. And it's not just building a program, it's having that formula that then becomes the blueprint for everything you do in your business. And so for me in that moment, to answer all the questions that because I know I went off on a whole tangent, right? Is that for me in that moment when my coach said, Nicole, don't you? And she started showing me all the stuff I had done for other people. I realized, one, I was discounting my gift. And many of us do that. We think, well, doesn't everybody do that? And, oh, nobody will pay me for that. And so I hadn't stopped long enough to realize that I could package, that I produce people. I draw out the best in you. One, I hadn't done that for myself. And then I started, instead of going into businesses and people paying me to write their content, now I teach you how to do it for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Now, tell us about that. How do we... I know there is, your formula for being able to create your own package or program. What can you share with us what that formula is and how we can get started?
Sure. Well, first, what I always tell people is you've got to make sure that your business, before you even create a formula, there is something I call the Fierce Framework. I'm going to walk you through quickly, right? Mm-hmm. And what most people don't realize is it's not one of these 4 steps. It's not 2, it's all 4. And if you don't have all 4 in place, clearly defined, your business will fail. Mm-hmm. So the 4 steps are: 1, what are you passionate about? Like, what do you love to do that you can do hour upon hour upon hour, right? And the second thing is, what are you proficient in, right? So all of them are P's, by the way. So what your passion and your proficiency has to correlate. And here's where Milli Vanilli syndrome shows up again. What I see so many entrepreneurs do is they look at other people's success. If I said, "Ooh, Elayne is great at podcasts, so I'm gonna teach other people how to podcast because I'm great at teaching people how to talk," and I am, but I don't have podcast expertise. So anytime I try to do what Elayne's expertise is, I will fail. Right now, success does leave clues, but I've got to be clear on what my fierce is and grow from there. So your fierce again has to correlate with your passion and your proficiency. The thing you're great at, your proficiency, is often the thing we discount because it comes easy and effortless for you. That's the thing I did for years.
Right, until my coach overlooked that. Mm-hmm.
Right. Till my coach called me out pretty much, right? And so then once you're clear on those 2 things and you begin to really understand how to then serve from that place, next is what problem does it solve? You have to understand that you are the answer that somebody is waiting for. I believe that we each were put on this earth on assignment, that God made us all Jasmine Bond or James Bond, and literally he put us down here as 007 agents to be the answer for a group of people that need that gift in you. So it's getting clear on what are those people that have the problem so that you can then be the solution. And then that leads to number 4, which is how do you profit from it? There's a Bible verse. I'm not trying to take you to church, but I am trying to take you to church. There's a Bible verse that says, I have come that you have life and have it more abundantly. So abundance, yes, is tied to making money, but it's also tied to the abundance you give to other people when you become the answer that moves their life or their business forward. So those 4 steps, and I see so many people that might have step 1 down and may have step 4 down, but they don't have 2 and 3, or they might have step 2 down, but don't, so it's really making sure all 4 of those are at play. And it's from that place that we create your blueprint, your formula, so that from that, you can literally, so like if I use myself for an example, I have a 6-step framework that I take people through, no matter who you are when you work with me. So now it makes it easy for me if I last minute, and this has happened, my good girlfriend, Doreen Rainey, the VP of Act Like a Success, Steve Harvey's company, asked me last minute to do a workshop, and we were at the live event because someone didn't show up or was running late. And I said, okay. She's like, well, that was easy. I said, yeah, because I know my formula. That was step 3. I could do that. So it's when you begin to understand what the recipe is, the methodology that's in you, because we all have a method by way we do what we do. Once you get clear on that, it makes everything you do, you spend less time, less effort, and you make more money.
Right. Now, in the framework, when you talk about number 4, how do you profit from it? It is what you think at that time, right? Because could it be something that changes? Or how will people know if they're just starting? These other things, they can certainly ask themselves the questions, reflect, I think, and come up with the answers. But how do you profit from it is just how do you think you're going to make money from it? Well, how is it set up? What does that look like?
Everybody's different, but it's creating more than one stream of income. So again, when I told you guys one story a few minutes ago, when I was making $13,000, I was only have one stream of income. And I thought I was going to be, big baller shot caller. Really? No. So you've got to at least have minimum 4 streams. And at least 2 of those should be, I call them making money while you sleep, where you're not present. Meaning that while I'm here with you right now, Elayne, somebody is walking through one of my online programs and I'm not present. Right? So you've got to be able to package what you do into some way that people can benefit from it, and it not take up a lot of your time. Like if I were to give you an example, I would use Deborah Tillman, who's been a client. Deborah Tillman is Lifetime Super Nanny. And when I met Deborah, I met her at a Black Enterprise Entrepreneurial Conference, and she, like me, was tired. There were so many families coming to her, and either 1, she couldn't take on any more one-on-one clients because she speaks all over the country, or 2, they couldn't afford her. And so we started working together. And I remember when I started telling her that we needed to create a formula, and she was like, there's no way I have a step-by-step process, because, most of us don't realize that we do what we do and it's a recipe.
Right.
And so I remember giving her this assignment that I give to my clients to figure out what your recipe is. And she came to our second call in tears, because she realized in that moment, not only did she have a recipe, but that we could take that framework, that blueprint, and she could serve more families. So what we created together is what she calls the GPS, the Greater Parenting System, which means she can do group programs, meaning that instead of one-on-one, and she still does one-on-one too, but one-on-one, she could do 1-to-many, like 20 at a time in a group.
Right.
And she can also do online programs so that she no longer leaves any family behind.
And the 1-to-many is such a great point. A lot of us, a lot of coaches, I should say, not all of us, start out, they're thinking one-on-one, which is fantastic. You can impact people, but think about 1-to-many. How can you scale this? Not that scale doesn't have to mean 10,000, or it could, right? But it could mean, like you said, 20 at least, or however many that helps you that does well for your business and helps you impact even more people.
And here's the thing, Elayne, it's not just coaches. It's I call them any service professional. So like lawyers, I've worked with lawyers. Like if I give you an example of one of my clients who is a family practice attorney, she has 2 locations. And I said to her, how many people turn you away because they can't afford you to help them walk through a divorce? And she was like, ooh, girl. I said, okay. So if we could put together an online divorce program where you walk them through how they fill out their own paperwork, she was like, oh my God. So you've got to understand that brilliance in you, your intellectual property, which is that know-how in you, that unique factor that sets you apart, that you assume everybody else knows how to do. So for her, that client, I'm not going to say her name because, I don't have permission. I didn't ask her. I didn't know I was going to share that. For that client, she started saying, well, I can't legally. I said, you're not filing it for them legally, but you can tell them what paperwork they need to fill out and how to fill it out, which most people don't know how to do. So at least you're helping them in some kind of way. If they want legal advice, baby, they need to pay for that.
That's right. That's right. And that's such a great point, too. Thank you for sharing that example of the fact that with a lawyer or these other industries that some of us just think now as entrepreneurs, just coaches or et cetera. And the fact that for you, you also help women who have 9 to 5 jobs learn how to bankroll their brilliance as well. So this isn't for anyone listening who is still in that day job that's paying for your passion. Nicole also helps women think about how even in their 9 to 5, they can do.
And let me say this about that, because most people will tell you to quit to start your job. And I tell you, don't quit, because you need your lights. You need to be able to eat. You can't build and struggle, right?
Peace of mind, yes.
And so what I teach you to do is build your business alongside your 9 to 5. And that is the first thing I'm going to teach you to do, is make some kind of program that is what I call, again, making money while you sleep, while you're not present. So you could be sitting in your cubicle or in your corner office and somebody's going through your program and, they've paid you for it, so that we build your business alongside your 9 to 5. So for my 6-figure earners, which I get a lot of corporate executives come to me, we don't want you to quit until you're making 6 figures and it's predictable. You've done it month over month, at least for a year, so that when you quit, you don't have to shift your paycheck.
Right. And your programs that we create, as you mentioned earlier, just so everyone can catch it, they don't all have to be programs that you are fully present in. So it doesn't have to depend on you, right? So you can create programs where you're coaching or speaking or doing whatever the work is, but then you create programs that are sort of automated as well.
Right. Because again, there's only so many hours in a day. So that limits the amount of people you can work with. And so if we can package that brilliance in other ways, and that gives you access to help more people. And that, again, it's almost like you can explode the number of people you work with. And obviously it brings you more money.
So do you have any favorite tools that you use to, not anything obviously proprietary or things you don't want to share, but do you have anything that are, say, public tools or software or anything like that have been your favorite?
I love that you asked me this question. So I'm going to tell you guys, I'm going to tell you that I'm a producing dynamo, but I am not a technology guru at all. I have tech people on my team.
Great.
So I don't know that I have a favorite technology. I will tell you that one of the things that I loved the most as I started to transition my own business and started really to move into 6 figures is automation. So what most people don't realize is, and I'll tell you my favorite automation in a second, but I want you to get this because I don't want you to be so busy writing down the tool that you don't hear what I'm going to tell you, what it allows you to do. Right. But when I realized this whole automation possibility for my business, when someone buys a program, I don't have to go and go, let me go email Elayne this first module. So everything automatically is set up to go out so that once a week, Elayne gets an email. I wrote one of my programs, Fierce Factor. I wrote those emails in 2014. So literally when you buy it, it automatically goes out. So that's automation at its best. So when I'm talking to you about making money while you sleep, for my online programs, those emails automatically, when somebody buys, it automatically starts. So automation has been a game changer. And there's really only 2 CRMs. Those of you that are saying, what the heck is a CRM? Yeah, girl, you need to grow your business. A CRM is a customer relationship management system. There's only 2 that have automation in the way that you want it to automate your programs. All of them have some kind of automation. Like if you sign up for a mailing list, you get an automatic email, but that's the end of automation for most CRMs. The 2 that have the automation where it's an autoresponder when someone buys, right, is Infusionsoft, and my favorite is Entreport. Now, let me tell you why Entreport is my favorite, because I've had Infusionsoft too. I just told you a few minutes ago, I'm not a techie. So Infusionsoft overwhelms me. I'm like always lightheaded. I had it for a year and I was like, why am I just stressing myself out every time I try to open it? Entreport, I can do it myself. Now I do have team now, but I literally still write my own blog in Entreport, super duper easy. And Entreport is a little more economical. So I'm a big Entreport fan.
Excellent. That's fantastic. And I do the same with the Support is Sexy Mastermind and other membership programs. Like you said, automation is key. For anyone who is just starting out, if you're not at the Infusionsoft, Entreport levels, even though those are fantastic, especially enterprise software to use for automation, you can also look into MailChimp has automation series for entrepreneurs who are maybe just starting out, who don't necessarily have the budget yet, right?
But the only thing with MailChimp is they don't have the automation after you buy, whereas your programs are automated to go out.
A lot of them, you can sync it though. You can sync MailChimp with membership.
No, they don't, but they don't have the automation portion that you want. And mind you, I've asked my tech team over and over. When somebody brings me a new program, I ask them over and over, because you guys know this is not my expertise, but I do have
Right.
a whole tech team that runs this engine called Fears Factor Lab. I'm very transparent in what I don't know. So anytime somebody brings some new program to me, I go ask. And again, MailChimp has some, but not all the capacity you need, like for a member center and all that stuff. And you really do need that to be able to have your programs run out on automation. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, that's what I use for now. But yeah, we'll make sure we link to everything so people can look through all of them and see what the options are. Good. But thank you for sharing that with us. So this way, at least we have some options, because people think kind of, where do I start? What do I do? What do I need to even create this? And I think that's sometimes what holds us back from even getting started.
Right. And Entreport has a $79. People don't realize there's a $79. You don't have to do the $275 up front monthly.
Right. Right.
And the other thing that Entreport has, which I love, is Entre Pages. So instead of you having to pay for and I don't get paid by Entreport. I'm not doing this commercial.
Right. This isn't an endorsement. Right.
But the other thing that Entreport has that I love is Entre Pages, which is, a lot of people, and I hope I'm not going to overwhelm my new ladies out there, but a lot of people will tell you that you need to buy ClickFunnels and all these other programs to do sales pages or opt-in pages. Entre Pages is that, and you don't pay extra. It comes when you enroll in Entreport. So instead of you having to pay for ClickFunnels, which is $99 a month, and then you paying for Entreport or Infusionsoft or MailChimp or whatever, it all automatically comes with Entreport. So, and they have other things too. Those are the two that's the one thing that I know about, because I really heavily encourage my clients to use Entre Pages for their sales pages, because it's just easy.
All right, everyone. We're going to make sure we link to all of those. I'll have the ClickFunnels link too. There will be no excuse, at least with this portion of getting you started. You will have plenty of resources, and you've heard our opinions on both of them. So Nicole, now tell us what entrepreneurship has taught you about yourself as a woman.
Entrepreneurship has taught me that I'm braver than I think I am. In order to, I was on a mastermind call, and Ayanna Van Zant was on that call. And she said, if you don't feel like you need to pee on yourself sometimes, you're not playing big enough. And I said to myself, I feel good, because I always feel like I need to have on some Depends, right? And so it really has taught me that I am braver than I thought I was, that I am, and mind you, as many things that I've done great, there's been some things that I've done absolutely wrong. There's been areas of my business that I've been brilliant at, and areas of my business where I have been in breakdown, which happens to all of us. But I'll tell you, the thing that I have learned the most is in every area of breakdown, I find the lesson. So for me, instead of quitting, because trust, I wanted to quit sometimes in those moments of breakdown, I go, stop, talk to myself. You need to find a lesson. What do you learn here so you won't come back here? So I think for that, I really realized that I am braver than I thought I was. And for a woman who was making $13,000 for 17 years, and $13,000 was on a good year, by the way. There were some years I made less than that, right? And the fact that I didn't give up when everything in me kept saying, God, this is so hard, is the only reason why I can tell you the last 5 years I've made multiple six figures in my business. And my goal this year is $1 million. So only because I didn't give up. And you've got to know that any next level is going to require a next level in you. So what are you willing to do to go after it? That's what I've always had to say to myself and push myself to my next level.
What was it like, going back a little bit earlier in the story, what was it like on that day that you made that $10,000? What was the feeling like? Just tell us just what that experience was like for you.
To be honest with you, I kept thinking that was a one-hit wonder day, that wasn't going to happen again, that I was just having a good day that day, right? And so when I came home from that event and I developed my next program, what I did was I created my framework that day and created my next program. And I realized, oh my goodness, it could happen. And I started saying my revenue growth. So then what's funny, you guys, is then I showed my husband, who was with me in the struggle, right? I always say that when we got married, I brought a baby into the marriage, and it was called my business, right? And mine was to not make it ever his responsibility. So I never asked for personal finances to go into my struggling business. I always said I brought the baby into the relationship. It's my responsibility. And so I remember, and my husband is the vice president of sales. He works for a Fortune. Then he worked for GE. Now he works for a smaller business. And I remember when I first showed him my P&L. Now, mind you, I didn't know what a P&L was when I hired my coach, profit and loss. I kept calling it a P&R, just to be really transparent, right? And so when I showed him my whole budget, he was like, this is wrong. Now, mind you, my husband was also a physicist, so he could add in his head. He don't need a calculator, right? And so he's like, this can't be right, because the first one was up 240,000. He was like, this can't be right. So he put out a calculator and added it. He still didn't believe it. And then the third time he added it, he said, oh my God. I said, I know. So for me, it took a minute. It was like that first, I still couldn't believe it. It took probably to the end of that first year, and I was blown away that this was possible. And every now and then I still have to pinch myself that I'm in this journey. And I tell you, every time I have a hard moment, it's on the other side of that I have the biggest breakthrough. So for anybody that's listening, that's in a hard place in your business and you're ready to quit, your breakthrough's on the other side of you wanting to quit. And how do I know? Because 17 years, if that don't tell you that, I should have wanted to quit, but I didn't. And so, yeah, for me, I was like in shock at first, and then I didn't believe it. I thought I was a one-hit wonder, and then I saw that, oh my goodness, this is really happening. And that's, by the way, I hadn't shared with anybody I was making money because I didn't believe it. When I showed my husband, that was the first person I showed, he couldn't believe it either. So
yes, thank you for sharing that. I wanted to get a sense of that feeling, and I love that you shared the part of that you couldn't believe it, because sometimes I think we go through that too. You can't believe it. You don't think it's ever going to happen again. You think you were lucky or whatever you come up with. God blessed me that one time, and then you don't double down on it, is what I say. When you see what's working, double down on that thing.
Yeah, you got to create strategy around it. And so for me, the reason why it worked is I'm strategic. Everything I do, I create strategy around it. This is the way I think. As a natural born producer, I am a strategist. So because I created strategy around the first thing I did, I just did it again, and with a different product though. Right. And so I said, oh my God, this strategy is working. So then I started coaching people, and I saw, oh God, it's working for her. So I shifted my entire business model to now this is all I do. I call it a fierce formula. I make sure women have that formula so that it's not just a program or a product. It's everything you do, your sales, your marketing, all built off of that strategy.
That's right. So in closing, Nicole, if you think over your life and career and you had the chance to thank only one person whose support was critical to you personally or professionally, who would that be, and what would you say?
That would be Pastor Cecil L. Chip Murray. So back in 1993, when I went to that church was First AME Church. And that church in Los Angeles was 18,000 members at the time. And out of 18,000 members, when I wanted to start a youth program, now mind you, I had just joined the church. The church was really active in the LA riots, and I went because of how active and how community focused the church was. I joined. And so Pastor Murray didn't know me. Some 6 months after the riots, I decided I wanted to start this program for girls, right? So here I come, 23 years old, into his office. I had never gone to his office in my life. And he looked at me and he poured into me. So in that moment, this little 23-year-old girl with a dream of holding a space for other young women. And I had this dream. I didn't know how the heck to do it, right? I just had this inkling in me. And for him, he poured into me. So I call him my Mordecai. Anybody that's ever heard the story of Esther, my favorite story in the Bible, who became queen, her cousin Mordecai is how she became queen. If you read the story, you'll get why. But I call him my Mordecai because he really literally saw who I was. Beyond what the neighborhood had defined me as, what my parents had defined me as, he saw the inside of me and called it out of me.
Beautiful. I love that. I'm going to link to that story too, so everyone can read it. Excellent. Now, what would you say now are the ways that we can support you? Tell everyone your website, social media, anything you want us to know.
Sure. So I want to give you all a free gift. Those of you that have been listening saying, ooh, I want to know how to bankroll my brilliance.
Yes.
I have a free webinar called Bankroll Your Brilliance. So just go to bankrollyourbrilliance.com, sign up. I'll walk you through the 3 steps to get paid for what you know. So that's number 1. So again, bankrollyourbrilliance.com. Then you can follow me. So I have a free Facebook group, Find Your Fierce Movement. Fierce as in Sasha Fierce, right? Find Your Fierce Movement. You can go to findyourfiercemovement.com and join my free Facebook group. And then you can follow me, Instagram, Twitter. I'm N. Roberts Jones. And then on Facebook, I am the Fierce Factor Lab with Nicole Roberts Jones.
Yes, the Fierce Factor Lab, Nicole's company, which I don't even know. I got so into your story if we actually said the name of your company, the Fierce Factor Lab.
And let me just say this last thing real quick, because I know some people are now saying, why does she call it Fierce, right? So, of course, everybody knows who Sasha Fierce is, right? So when Beyonce is standing on stage, she's standing in the full power of her gift. She's doing the things she was born to do. She's unapologetic about it, and she's getting paid for it. So it's our goal in Fierce Factor Lab that every woman that we are blessed and privileged to work with, that we hold the space and give you strategy to stand in the full power of your gift and position it to profit.
Excellent. Now, what would you say is a parting piece of advice from you to our listeners about anything?
That in order for you to get to your next level, it's going to be you coming out of your comfort zone. There was a sermon I listened to a couple of weeks ago by Stephen Furtick called, I forgot something dysfunction, comfortable dysfunction. Anyway, what he said, and I can't remember the name of it, but what he said in it is fear is not the ally of faith. It's not the enemy of faith. It's actually familiarity, because so many of us will stay in just good enough and mediocre. And so for those of you that have that rumble in your belly, it's going to take you coming out of that familiar, that comfort zone to get to your next level.
Excellent. Nicole Roberts Jones, the one and only. Yay! This is beautiful. Thank you so much. Hold on.
Thank you for having me, Elayne. I appreciate it. Of course.
Hold on. All right. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Nicole, and I hope you got plenty of information and resources. Did you like our debate about the tools that you can use to build your business? I'm telling you, tons of great info. But don't worry if you didn't get to capture everything, because I have you taken care of in the show notes for this episode. So just go to supportissexypodcast.com, go to that search icon at the top, and just search Nicole, Nicole. Her show notes page will pop up with all of the links and the resources and the ways to get in touch with her and the way to take advantage of that free offer. When the fabulous women come on the show and share free offers for courses or information or downloads or worksheets, you must take advantage of it. There really is no reason. So you can find that all at supportissexypodcast.com and just search Nicole. That free download for Nicole, though, if you want to go straight there, is Bankrollyourbrilliance.com. Bankrollyourbrilliance.com. So really, you have no excuse today, right? All right. So, I appreciate you being here. And as I always say, it wouldn't be the same without you. And if we are not already connected on social media, please make sure you connect with me at Elayne Fluker at Support is Sexy. I would love to hear from you. I love to engage with you all and see what you think about the episodes. It's just been incredible. And more important, I love to be able to respond to you there. So that is a great way to get in touch at Support is Sexy at Elayne Fluker. All right. So now, until we chat next time, always remember that you deserve support. And I'll talk to you soon. Take care.